So, hi everyone. Thank you so much for joining us as part of our celebration of Women in Print. My name is Charlie, and I work on the marketing team at PermaJet, and I also run the social media account. This is my colleague Louise. Louise has been
Hi.
on the PermaJet team for just over 15 years now. She is big on the camera club judging scene, and Lou is also a print and photography lecturer as well, aren't you, Lou?
I certainly am. For my
So, for
sins.
those of you who are not familiar with our company, PermaJet, we do supply award-winning fine art, photographic and fine art, inkjet paper and canvas. We also supply desktop and wide format printers, and then also a whole range of inkjet accessories as well. And yeah, we're really excited today to be joined by some of the ladies from the SheClicks community. I'm sure Angela will be able to expand, but again, for those of you who are not familiar with SheClicks, SheClicks are an informative group that encourage and support women photographers at all levels. So we're all here today in honour of International Women's Day, which is on Saturday, the 8th of March. And this month, PermaJet team are running a much needed campaign celebrating women in print to amplify the voices of women in the print and the photographic industry. Um, I think we can probably all agree that historically this industry is male dominated, with women often facing barriers to entry and maybe less recognition for their contributions. However, and I'm basing this purely on what I've seen on social media over the last few years, so I might get called out here, but I do feel as though we're witnessing a wave of female-led initiatives that are actively encouraging and empowering women to enter and also thrive in this industry. So at PermaJet, we do feel like it is our responsibility and also our privilege to be able to shine a spotlight on these initiatives, to highlight and celebrate the progress that feel that we are making, and hopefully inspire the next generation of women creators. So yeah, over to you, ladies. If you wouldn't mind introducing yourself, a little bit about yourself and what you do. So, Angela, if you wanted to kick us off.
Sure. Yeah. So I'm Angela Nicholson. I'm the founder of SheClicks, which is, as we've already heard, is a female photographers community. I founded it in August 2018, so it's been going quite a while now. It's primarily as a Facebook group, but we also have a website and podcast, and there's lots of chat and conversation and image sharing, advice, all that sort of thing going on the Facebook group. We offer free webinars and meetups as well. My background is in testing camera gear and reviewing photographic equipment. So I used to be amateur photographer's technical editor, and then I was at Future Publishing where I was the head of testing there. And then I left and set up a website, and now I run SheClicks.
Brilliant. Nina?
Thank you.
Hi, I am Janina Wild. I'm a photography educator. Now, education was what I first got into. So I was qualified as a teacher from 2001, and I'm still currently transitioning from being a full-time science teacher into being a full-time photography educator. So my photography came a little bit later. And after playing with lots and lots of different genres, I ended up with multiple exposure being my favourite. And so the obvious step for me really was to move into allowing other people to get into such a genre, and making sure that they can get the same satisfaction and the same feeling of creativity that it brings me.
Well, and Philippa?
Hi, I'm Philippa Huber and I'm based in Wiltshire these days, and I'm a pet and wildlife stroke nature photographer. And I started off, I'm one of the earliest SheClicks members, I like to think. And I was living abroad at the time. I lived abroad for 30 years almost, I think. Moved back to the UK, lived on a narrowboat with my husband for 3.5 years, traveling around the country. When my photography, I'd always loved photography, it sort of went up a level then. And I ended up more or less based around devices on my boat. So that was the focus point, and we'd go up and down the canal. And since then, I sell my prints using a lot of PermaJet paper, I must say. In the Shambles market in devices, I do craft fairs within the Southwest. And in the last 2 years, I've started a pet photography business as well, which is fully print orientated. So I always say, if you're not interested in prints, choose someone else to photograph your pets, because for me, that is exactly the point of photographing the animals, is to get something really special on the walls. So yeah, that's me.
Nice. And Lou, I know I did introduce you, but was there anything else you wanted to add? I feel like I might have cut you short there.
That's all right. No, well, I've actually, as Charlie was saying, I've actually been with PermaJet over 15 years now, and I actually cover the customer and sales really of the company. But I've actually been a photographer for nigh on, God, 45 years now. I'm an avid camera club photographer, but I do actually lecture and judge on the camera club circuit. So my judging is slightly different. I do obviously prefer prints, but I do PDIs as well. But my judging, I actually talk about the essence of choosing the right paper choice and the presentation. Because when you're actually judging on the panels, on the international and the RPS, that image has to make an impact straight away. So for me, it's the whole round actual presentation of the image, which is paramount importance. And that's why it's really busy for me on the circuit, because everybody wants to hear. Again, we'll discuss it later on, but it is still a difficult area with men. I was judging last Monday, and there was a gentleman, particularly in the audience, that practically disliked every criticism I made. Well, comment I made, not criticism. And you're thinking, in a minute, I'm going to thump you. But it's just, but I know him from old, and he's never going to change. And as far as women are concerned in photography, it's still a man world in his life. But it is definitely changing. So yeah. I'm really excited that this is happening this afternoon. So let's see how we go with the questions.
Thank you. So, Angela, I suppose this one is for you. So, can you tell us like a little bit about why and how SheClicks began, and why you felt there was a need for it to begin with?
Sure. Well, I mean, it's everything you said initially, a little earlier, but when I was working as I still work as a journalist writing about photographic equipment, I went to quite a few events where, a camera's being launched and announcements being made. And I looked around, and either I couldn't see any other women, or they were the ones serving the drinks. And I kind of thought, well, this is a bit strange. And there was one in particular I went to, and I think there was about 200 journalists from across Europe. And there were two women there in the audience. I was one, and the other person was a French woman, so we couldn't actually speak to each other. But it just struck me that actually that camera was not going to be seen in a woman's hands. And that became quite an important thing for me. I started working on a website called Camera Jabber, and my partner suggested to me that I should do something for female photographers. And I thought, well, that's, it's quite a tricky thing, but to develop a niche website. So I thought Facebook groups were just taking off at that time. So I decided to develop the Facebook group. And I thought that it would be, because I know lots and lots of people in the industry, I thought it'd be quite popular. So we'd probably get about 300 members in, I don't know, 8 weeks or something like that. But we did that in 24 hours. And that really cemented to me the fact that it was something that was needed, something that was wanted. And at that time, I was in a lot of Facebook groups around kit, because I am quite interested on kit. I'm a bit of a, I do like the tech. And I got really fed up of somebody asking a question because they didn't understand a piece of kit, because they'd never used it before, they were new to photography, and they're being absolutely slated, because it's just unfair. You were not born with an innate knowledge of photography or cameras. And unfortunately, the people who were doing the slating were generally men. And I thought that was really sad, because I don't know any men like that. And it's probably because they just don't go into those, those groups because they don't want to get that kind of response. Let's see that sort of reaction. So I thought, well, I'll set up a Facebook group where women can ask questions that they want without fear of being told that they're asking about the wrong lens or, the wrong camera or whatever it is. And I just wanted to have this space where people could, or women could ask questions, share their images, and we could all celebrate successes and sometimes come in for a little pick me up when things weren't going so well. And we've now got 14,000 members in the Facebook group.
Wow.
And it's incredibly active. Yeah, I've made some great friends in the group. And this is one of the funny things is I felt I was creating a community, and I kind of thought it's something that would help other people, but actually it's really helped me as well because I've made some fantastic friends through the group, and I really enjoy being part of it myself.
Yeah, yeah. And I feel like how you were saying before, I feel like women understand women's needs more so. So when you're talking about like
Yes.
you feel nervous about asking if you're in a room full of men, you shouldn't, but as a female you feel nervous about asking a question. But if you're in a room full of women, you go, I'm sure our brains all work the same. So if one person's thinking it, someone else is too, and feel a little bit more comfort being surrounded by women as opposed to a room full of men, I suppose.
And there's all sorts of questions like, if you're a sorry.
No, go for it.
If you're a landscape photographer, you're a guy. If you're a guy, you can just hop behind a tree if you get caught short. But it's a bigger deal for women. And there's been conversations about what happens when you need the loo, and actually where the nearest toilets are a significant, discussion factor when somebody's organising a meetup. There tends to be one. There are other things to consider.
Yeah, yeah. So this is a kind of a question for everyone. I feel like, obviously now you're in a community of say 14,000 women, which is amazing. Being part of a female community, how do you feel like it's benefited your growth and your development as a photographer, especially when it comes to being able to network with other women or mentorship that you're able to gain from someone else, and then thinking about kind of the collaborations that you've been able to have with other women within that SheClicks community?
For me, one of the basic things was when lockdown happened. I was living on my boat, but we still had a house that we'd been renting, and it wasn't renting at that time. So by law, we had to go and live back in this house. So we spent all our time decorating the house to sell it as soon as we could and not to have to live in a house anymore. And Angela started Thursday morning coffee mornings with the SheClicks group. So every Thursday morning was my hour when I'd stop painting or whatever I was doing, and I'd sit down and I'd mostly listen rather than chat in the chats. But I made sort of friends that way, and that was a really lovely, purely social thing. But for me, it introduced me to other people that loved photography, and having been back in the country only sort of recently, I didn't actually have a lot of friends in the UK. So that was a really lovely, gosh, aren't there a lot of other people quite like me spread all around the country? That was great. And then the webinar started, and there was a webinar about building a website. And I watched that and I took loads of notes, and I watched it again and I took more notes. And then in lockdown, I built my website. And I don't know how that would have happened without that. Do you know what I mean? And now I can sort of go back, and all websites always need working on, I reckon, personally, but I need to update it at the moment. But I know that I can sort of do all the prep, go in and spend a few hours, and I will update it. And that was just sort of, to me, free education that I really don't know how I could have got it so simply, easily, and basically for nothing as well without SheClicks. It was incredible. And that's just sort of one example that really did change what I was able to do.
I think it's the camaraderie, isn't it, as well, within SheClicks. And I think that's really important, because you don't necessarily have to all talk about photography. It's actually gaining friendships as well, which is really, really important. And there's a lot of ladies out there who are quite isolated and feel quite lonely and are not members of camera clubs or photographic institutions, but they do like taking photographs and getting together. And I think that's why SheClicks is so popular. And it is wonderful achievement, Angela. It really is. And to see, and I see on the Facebook group when they've been out for groups, and the laughing and the joking and the camaraderie is absolutely amazing. And it's so important, I think. When I run the academy courses here, which we do on printing, 9 times out of 10, there's more men than women. And the women do feel intimidated by the men. You can tell that as soon as they walk in through the door and they see, oh my God, I've got all men here. But once you actually start getting them involved with the other chaps, it's not that often I get a difficult gentleman who doesn't like a female within the group, and they encourage them. And it's really important to actually see how they're actually getting together. And I see it around the camera clubs as well. In fact, in some of the battles, the women's photography actually does better than the men. So, which they don't actually like, but hey ho, women rule. So it's quite interesting. So the SheClicks camaraderie, that's really important for women to feel more secure within their own environment. And I think that's why it's so important.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, I was just going to say that SheClicks has, it has completely changed my life. There is absolutely no way I would be where I am at the moment without SheClicks. Not a chance. I was doing photography. I'd started creative photography. I'd started multiple exposures. And then I discovered SheClicks, and I was looking for something to belong to, but to get a feeling of belonging. And none of the other groups that were out there had anything like it. And so I went to a meetup, and it was at Wisley in Surrey, and actually met Angela on the first meetup that I went to, and started to get to know people who are now my friends. I have a joke that occasionally I'm going, hi Philippa. Occasionally I'm going out with my non-photography friends, and everyone looks at me like, what? Because I don't really have as many of those anymore. I mean, obviously I've kept the same friends. I didn't just dump them. The way that my life has gone, it's not just a camaraderie though. It is, as Philippa said, I learned so much over that time. It gave me so much confidence in going for the creativity rather than going for the Instagram looks, going for, I wanted to do travel photography at the time. I mean, it completely changed the pathway which I wanted to go on. And when I decided I wanted to step down from teaching, step down and do something that was slightly different, whereas still being in education, my first call was to Ange to say, okay, how do I do this? What do I do? Where do I go forward? And she said, well, why don't you do a webinar for SheClicks? At which point I thought, oh my God, I'm certainly not qualified to do this at all. But if she thinks I am, then I am. And so honestly, I don't think I would be here without the help and encouragement. And obviously, I don't want to take all the credit away from myself. I've done a lot of hard work and a lot of networking. But again, a lot of that networking has come through the SheClicks opportunities that I've had. So yes, it has been a real life changer for me.
I should add, or we should add, that Janina's webinar was one of the most popular ones we've ever had. So there was it's talking about multiple exposures, and that's actually something I learned when I started SheClicks very early on. It was because I'd been working, say, with Amateur Photographer and Digital Camera World and other magazines, and there was a particular sort of photography, but I hadn't really seen much using layers, textures, multiple exposures, ICM, all of that. It was kind of occasionally there, but it was such an important part of SheClicks photography, and using lens baby lenses and getting these creative effects in camera, all sorts of things like that. Yes, there's what we might call straight photography as well. There's lots of people who really enjoy, what we think of more traditional photography. But to see some of these other creative things as well was just really enlightening and actually very, very exciting, I think.
Yeah. I mean, do you feel like, does anyone feel as though that they have faced any challenges as a female in the photographic industry at all?
I was asked this question the other day, actually, and I have to say that I haven't, but I think that I haven't because I've gone through the SheClicks route. And I think without the support and the belief in myself, which has been generated by speaking to people within that community, it may well have been much more difficult. No, and actually my camera club are really supportive of my multiple exposures, which is really interesting. Even though a lot of them don't really, partake in it, they like to see that I'm doing something different. So I haven't at the moment, but as I said, I think that that's because I've come through a route where I've taken every opportunity that has been given to female photographers, because there are a lot of opportunities there for female photographers at the moment in order to boost the numbers. And because because they have been there, and I have gone, right, I'll have that. Right, I'll give that a go. Right, it's this is all about women. I want to be a part of it.
Yeah.
It's actually boosted me at the moment rather than anything else.
It's nice to hear.
Yeah, I'd agree. I think being part of SheClicks and having so much sort of support and encouragement and people asking questions and being able to ask questions. What I do is I'm a sole trader. I just sort of do my thing. And, at the start, I was crossing my fingers. I had no idea if I was onto a good plan or not, but I wasn't really doing anything else. And my philosophy in life has always been kind of jump first and figure out if I can swim or not. And I'm still swimming. So that's quite good. But I'll be on my stand or something, and every so often there'll be a woman come along, and I always have like my SheClicks flask there, and it's just a little sort of sign for the initiated. And there's just all these random ladies that will come up and say, oh, I'm a member of SheClicks. Or if I get chatting and they're into photography at whatever level, or whatever genre or anything like that, I can say, oh, look, here's SheClicks, have a look at it. So it's really lovely for just that little extra connection on the day. I've not had any personal sort of problems by being a female. Mostly it will be a man wanting to carry the box or open a table for me because they think that I'm, in need of help. And if they want to carry something for me, they can carry something for me. That's great. But yeah, I'm just doing my own thing in my own little corner. And it's been good for me as a woman.
Yeah. Angela, do you feel like you've had have you had any challenges at all, or have you had any challenges since starting SheClicks? I feel like whenever in this industry, because I'm more so side on the social media side, and I work with lots of different companies, whenever I talk about International Women's Day or something that's female led, there's always someone that has what about International Males Day, or what about this, or what about that? And I feel like, have you had, since starting SheClicks, kind of someone going over and going, oh, what about groups for men? I feel like there's always one, and like we say, we can't put everyone in the same box, but there tends to be, those are the sort of challenges I find from my industry. Have you found any kind of challenges since starting SheClicks?
Occasionally, that kind of thing. Sometimes, say at a trade show like the photography show or something like that, somebody might come up and make that kind of comment, oh, well, that's not very fair, or you're being sexist or something like that. I was at an event and somebody actually did have, I was invited to speak about SheClicks. I explained what it was, only for like 5 minutes. And somebody came up and said something along the lines, oh, you're still peddling your sexist beep. And I said, I'm sorry. And he had another go at me. And then I explained to him what SheClicks was and why it was needed and this, that, and the other. And he said, oh, I didn't mean to cause any offense. I said, well, you just swore at me. What was that supposed to do? But and then I said, look, we're just going to have to agree to differ on this, and we sort of parted ways. And that's pretty much been it, really. And to counter that, particularly say at the photography show, which its first day is on the International Women's Day, so that's great.
Yeah.
Loads of men come up to the stand and say, oh, you're doing a really great job. And sometimes they'll drag their daughter or their wife or their partner or their sister along and say, you should join this lot. You're a great photographer.
Yeah.
And that's really nice. It's really good to have their support. And I have to say, as an industry, the industry has been incredibly supportive too. So generally, I think it's been a completely positive experience. And I think, like you said, the tide has turned, or is turning, and people understand the need for these kind of things a bit more. It's that thing about, you've got to see it to be it.
Yeah.
And, each to their own sort of thing.
Yeah. Yeah. I feel like it's nice to hear positive, optimistic, kind of being optimistic about the future of this industry. So yeah. So kind of coming on to, obviously, it's PermaJet. We offer fine art printing paper. So talking about print, I know we're obviously moving into an increasingly digital world. So it's kind of wanting to know what value you find on producing physical prints with your photographs, and how does this medium help you connect with other people?
Shall I go first? Oh, sorry, Philippa, you
Well,
go.
I was going to say it's just a fundamental part of my business, but even before having a business, I just loved prints. Um, and when I discovered fine art giclée printing, I spent a flipping fortune. It was, and I tried all the different papers with different photos, and then I'd buy the frames for them and I'd put them in this house that I never really lived in, but I just got kind of addicted to print. I think it's the most wonderful thing. And now I have a range of what I'd call the standard prints and then the fine art. And when I'm selling my pet portrait sessions to people, I have a fine art print that I can pull out of its envelope that isn't framed or anything, so that they can actually see close up what it really looks like. So for me, that it's just a sales machine that really, really works, because every single person is stunned at how a photo of a dog, when it's a giclée print and slightly textured paper, it just goes up a level. So yeah, printing is everything for me.
It's really trying to get the communication over to people as well, to choosing the right paper for the right images as well, which is really where I come in. And that's where my judging around the clubs, and also at the Print Academy, one of the courses, we actually invite the delegates to bring in 2 or 3 images, and then we will print them during the afternoon on a paper type that they normally use. And then I will actually recommend a paper type that I think would actually suit the images. And 9 times out of 10, they are absolutely blown away, not only seeing their own work, but also seeing the other delegates in the group's photography and how it can improve. And when you look at them side by side, and they all think, oh my God. And it's just getting that confidence and that information across and the message across. I always say you want an image to feel to the viewer how you felt when you actually originally took that photograph.
Yeah.
And when they start thinking about that, particularly around the camera clubs, I see predominantly a luster paper or a gloss paper, because they don't want to experiment. They're not aware of any other paper and they're frightened to try it. But as soon as I say that, you could see them all starting to think, and the cogs turning. And it's amazing the impact it actually has. Does that image really show the emotion that you felt? What made you take that image in the first place? And that's where the education comes in on that side of the print. I can talk about print till kingdom come. So I'm very passionate about it.
You're in the right job.
Yeah.
I feel like print has become more revered and more important now. We've kind of elevated our opinion of it. So, back when everybody shot on film, you got 36 prints and you might select a couple to enlarge, but you just were so used to going through them. Whereas now we reserve it for those really special images, the ones that, and we get it printed, and we do consider what paper we want to put it on, because we're going to frame it and put it on the wall. I think it's become more important.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think for the genre that I use for multiple exposure, again, the prints on luster and the gloss don't do anything, because it's all about the texture, and it's all about bringing all of those layers out. And so compared with the screen, there's nothing like seeing the prints when I've printed them out. And you can also see what you really want to tweak, because to me, the final image is actually on the paper. And that means you can go back if you need to the actual image in order to make it, even more special, if you like.
Yeah. So if we're kind of sticking to, print and how this works day to day for your business, I know that some of you, like Ginny, you were saying that you're kind of juggling photography and kind of transitioning from being a teacher. So do you have any kind of strategies that have proven effective for selling and promoting your work? And then do you have any hints and tips for other women who are thinking about, starting that, transitioning from, one job into their passion, or who are just needing some, like say some hints and a bit of inspiration how you can navigate the business side of your industry?
Yeah, well, I do use prints, and I have been out and had some made so that I could sell some on a couple of stalls. Obviously, that's really quite hard for me at the moment because I'm very limited. I'm going down to part-time in September, probably for a year before I leave. Altogether. So there are still a number of ideas that are forming in my head that I can't quite get to at the moment. It's really quite frustrating. But I did a calendar, which again is all about promoting my work. So although the calendar sales were going to generate me no income whatsoever, and business wise, they're negligible.
Yeah.
As far as showing people what I do, getting more people interested in maybe coming to one of my courses or workshops, they are absolutely fantastic. Using my business cards, I always have a little a photograph on the back of all of them. Thank you, Philippa. That was your advice a couple of years ago. And so seeing those business cards with an image on the entire of the back of the business card, again, it's just seeing that in a physical format is really good, rather than just saying, oh, just go to my website. They've actually got a physical print there. And then I suppose I do use them when I go on my in-camera workshops. So my courses are online, but my in-camera workshops, obviously, I'm face-to-face. And I found that I didn't want to take my Chromebook with me. I didn't want them to see my images that I had taken, that I was going to say, right, okay, we want to create something that looks a bit like this. And so I had them all printed out. And it works much more effectively. I'm much more comfortable in showing people what they can produce by showing them a print rather than showing them something on a screen.
Yeah.
As far as, other people getting into the photography business, it's about being brave, and it's about stepping into what you can do. I have a number of women on my courses who come to me and they say, well, is this right? And the lovely thing about multiple exposure is it's not right or wrong. There is nothing that is right or wrong with multiple exposure. It is either it's just what you want it to look like. And I always say to them, well, I can tell you how to change it, but only if you want it changed. And I have a lot of women who are really quite hesitant because they want the right thing. And that's quite interesting. And so my courses are all about giving women empowerment. And at the moment, it is mainly women. Because I think I started with the SheClicks. A lot of my clients are female.
Yeah.
I am starting to get some more males in now, but a lot of my clients are females. And so it's just about giving them the confidence to go forward with it. Having worked in management in education, there was a saying there for women in management in education, which was be 10% braver. And I would go with that, and I would stick with that, because I don't think that's just about management and education. I think that's about putting yourself forward in any way, shape or form. So just close your eyes, take that step, be that little bit braver.
I should take that step.
It's easier to be brave.
Yeah.
You've got people behind you, isn't it?
Yeah.
There's other people, and I think when we have a meetup, there's people who are a bit nervous about taking photos or maybe, taking photos in a particular way, but when everyone else is doing it, they just join in and they have a great time, and you can see them visibly, relaxing.
Yeah. Philippa, what about yourself? Do you have any kind of strategies for promoting that you can share with other people who are thinking about getting into this industry?
Yeah, so for me, it's all about my amazing personality and but I sell face to face. So I'm in the shambles in Devizes 3 days a week. So I meet hundreds of people there. And when I started, I found my photos from my very first show the other day, and I thought, my God, what was I thinking? It was awful. It was rubbish. But the lovely thing is, I kind of, even then, I knew it was going to get better, but I thought you have to start somewhere. So let's give it a go. And the very first craft fair that I did, I walked in and I saw a lady looking out of a window, and I just presumed she was the organizer. So I waved at her. Turns out she does amazing stained glass, but had nothing to do with the organization. But we're now firm friends, and she's introduced me to other markets and other people. So my sort of the basic is, if you feel like doing something, give it a go, because if you don't try, you never know. And you will learn very quickly what you can do to improve. Janina's statement, be 10% braver. You have to, I read this again very recently, it's about wanting something 1% more than being happy with what you've got at the moment. You need to have some sort of majority percentage desire to give it a go, and then you have to feel the fear and do it anyway, kind of thing. So going back to the printing and photography, my business is selling prints.
Yeah.
I expanded into pet photography again because a guy said to me, you're a wildlife photographer, so you must be able to photograph dogs. And he hired me to do a shoot for his wife. So again, the first shoot, I feel like I blagged it, but photographing dogs that don't have a great deal of recall in a wood is very much like wildlife photography and bird photography that I'm used to. Then because I love prints, by printing my favorite from a lot of pet portraits, I now have a wall full of dog portraits and panels. People contact me to go to dog fairs to put up my stand there to promote my business. So it's being nice to everybody. It's knowing that when you start out, that isn't the finished what you're going to be. It's about being brave to give it a go and not being afraid for it to take time. I wouldn't say fail, but I've been doing it just over 2 years now, and most people can't believe how far I've come in 2 years. But again, I've put the hours in. I used to say I'd never say no to anybody. Now I'm at a position where I know what will work for me and what will help. So I say no to more people.
Yeah.
And yeah, I would just say do it and then start printing and put a little bit of percentage of profits away for printing, because for me, having new prints that go on the wall show people that I'm still making new work. With my pet stuff, each shoot that I do, I just choose one of each dog and I get a little 7x5, and I have now a physical album on my desk, and I can be chatting to people or leave them on their own. And apart from my lovely fine art and big framed panels on the wall, they've just got this little photo album of all these gorgeous dogs doing their thing that they can, and that makes a connection with them.
Yeah. I feel like that would make a connection for me because I love dogs. I feel like you talking about that, I'm like, get my dog photographed.
It's surprised you haven't already.
Yeah, I know. It's really stupid that I haven't, because I adore him, and he does deserve his own album, if I'm being honest with you.
he does. But that is the thing, it's by talking to people for my job, by talking to people and being out there physically, it brings me sales. I now have a workshop as well, and I've sort of got prints on the wall in there, so if people drop in, they see my work as well. So it's just having a presence somewhere for me, and always being ready to talk to people at any time.
Yeah. So all of you are female photographers. How do you feel like as female photographers, how are you shaping the industry, and what are your hopes and aspirations for the future of photography for females, and the future of photography with print, and also gender equality in this creative field?
Wow, that's quite a big question.
It was, wasn't it?
Hopes and aspirations for female photographers and gender equality.
Well, equality is obviously the goal, to have parity, the same number of women working in photography or enjoying photography as a hobby, because I feel that is as important, if not more important, to be honest. And obviously setting up SheClicks is part of that, and that's why we have the webinars. I've also got podcasts where, you know, to celebrate the female photographers that are out there, so we can hear from them, their experiences. And actually, generally, it all seems to be they all have the same experiences as we do. It's just somehow they, you know, they get through them, and they've been, some of them are internationally acclaimed photographers. I feel quite strongly that we need to have some positive discrimination in some situations. So, for example, perhaps in competitions, but I also feel that in competitions as well, we need to try and force to have more women judges, so that we've got a broader spectrum of opinions on what makes a great photograph.
Yeah.
So we can start to see more women winning.
Yeah, I get that around the camera clubs. So 9 times out of 10, I'll get the organizer or the president of the evening saying, it's so nice to have a woman judge, because it's a different perspective actually on the images. And because I'm looking at it from a different angle as well, from the presentation and the paper side. And it's just getting that point across that women, we're not equal yet. Obviously, but we are making long strides to do so. And it's also with photography as well. We have a lot of male photographers who are suffering with their mental health and well-being. And I think that's lacking in the women's side as well. And it's giving them the confidence to come forward and say, look, I'm suffering. This is my photography. This is my outlet. And trying to encourage them to actually come forward and to try and help them and try and give them the confidence again to face the world. And I think really, I know SheClicks is paramount importance. And listening to all 3 ladies there, just listening to your passion and what SheClicks has done for you and your inspiration as well. With me working full-time in photography, I don't get as much time to spend on my own photography. But by joining a group, thinking I should be more into SheClicks and get involved, because I really do miss that side of it. But I really think for women who are suffering with their mental health side, I think that's really paramount importance, and we don't tend to see that. And I don't know about you, Angela, do you see many ladies who have been suffering? There's a couple of names that spring to my mind straight away, and it's I just think it's really important to try and encourage them.
And I hear a lot of people say that, like you said, you know, photography is the happy place, or it's the place they can express themselves or just forget stuff and come back and feel calmer. I mean, every time I go to a SheClicks meetup, I come back feeling happier and more relaxed than I did when I went. And generally a bit grubbier, full of cake and quite tired as well.
But that doesn't matter.
No, that's all good. That's all good.
Yeah.
I don't think there's any pressure though, is there? So when you meet up as women, there's no pressure to try and be better, and you're not actually in competition trying to prove yourself. So therefore you relax and enjoy the event. And I think that's really what's made SheClicks.
It's actually the opposite of competition, because what you'll find is somebody will say, oh, I've been trying to get this picture and I can't do it. And, oh, well, what are you doing? And they'll have a chat. You know, people will help each other get that picture. One of my happiest memories of a meetup was I had a 150 to 600 mil lens that I was testing, and someone was really interested in it. And I lent it to her. She put it on her camera, and like 5 seconds later, a kingfisher appeared right next to her. And of course, she had the long lens. So I just sort of watched, and she could not have been happier. To get, you know, she got a shot at the kingfisher, and I felt great because you know, I'd facilitated that, and it was really nice. And you see that kind of thing happen a lot.
And it's like you say, it's about supporting one another, not competing with one another. And when you're in a space where you feel like you've all have the same mindset and you feel comfortable, that's what it's about. And like you say, walking away from that and not feeling like, oh, I need to achieve this, or this person's here and I need it. There's no one-upmanship of something. It's that you come away feeling supported and empowered by other women.
Definitely.
Yeah, going back to what Lou said about you know, helping people with their mental health. I came out of teaching, and it's been very difficult actually to come out of teaching for a very long time, because obviously, you know, you're with the next generation. So there's you help them all the time. That's what you're doing. That's what my job is. I'm in school in order to facilitate these young people in order to get the best out of them that I possibly can. And so in that way, it's really rewarding. And I came out and I did my first course of online. And do you know what? There are so many people who are not children who need that confidence, that support that I felt just as important. I've had women say to me, well, my partner, he just tells me all my photographs are rubbish. And I've had other people who have faced other difficulties and are trying to get through it. And if I can grow my business and be able to help people through it with the photography, then that will make me very happy.
And kind of finally, kind of wrapping up, do any of you have any advice that you could give to other women thinking about getting into photography and print?
I would just say, and this is bigging up PermaJet actually, the knowledge guide that you can download is a great resource for, again, I'm going on about giclée and fine art papers again now. But for people who are wondering what we've been talking about for that type of printing, go to PermaJet, download the knowledge. I believe it's part 1, the paper section. But that really does give an excellent overview of the different types of paper. Nothing beats actually holding them and seeing them in person, but it is such a good resource.
Yeah, thank you, Philip. And that actually was written by our colleague Abby, female,
Right.
who, she did such an amazing job. She's done a volume 1 and volume 2, and the first one is all about paper selection, and it's kind of broken down into bite-sized chunks, and it kind of, it's quite comprehensive, but it gives you enough detail without being too much, and it talks about these are our digital papers, these are our brighter papers, these are our double-sided papers, and what you can use that specific paper for. Because we always say that there's no one surface that will suit everything, or it just kind of gives you a bit more information on, I do landscape photography, I do seascape, and what would really suit this image. So yeah, you can download that, and it's a free ebook. I feel like I'm selling it now. It's a free ebook, and you can download on the PermaJet website. But yeah, thank you, Philippa. I feel like Abby did a fantastic job of writing that. So yeah. And what about anyone else before we wrap up? Anyone else have any advice for people coming into print or photography?
I think really be yourself and don't let others sway you from saying that you should do this. If you like the image is yours. Don't be swayed by other people's opinions.
Yeah, I think I'd echoed that, what Lou said. Just you produce images that you like, and that is the most important thing. There are still far too many people wanting to impress judges, no disrespect at all, Lou, but particularly with a camera club, it must be sharp, it must be this, it must be the other, and that's not all camera clubs and it's not all judges, but it is still there. And I get a lot of people coming to me saying, well, I don't know about any of this stuff because I've just learned how to take that kind of image. And I think you're absolutely right. Be yourself and own your own photography would be my advice.
My advice would be to shoot as much as you can, because particularly if you're using a digital camera now, it doesn't, once you've bought the camera and the lens, it doesn't cost anything to take photographs. So shoot as much as you can, experiment, have fun, and create a folder which is called prints, and put your favorites in there, and then every now and again get a batch of prints done.
Yeah, amazing. Thank you. And thank you so much. Yeah, that's some really great advice. And thank you all for joining us today. Really appreciate it. I feel like it's been really empowering discussion. So if there's anyone watching today or whenever you might watch this, if you're looking to join or get involved in a female-led community, please take a minute to go and have a look at SheClicks. And anyone who's maybe looking at getting into print or who wants some support with that, or looking at how they can choose the right paper for their image, or any kind of technical advice, then please get in touch with us at PermaJet. So yeah, thank you everyone. Thank you for your time, and wishing you all a very happy International Women's Day on the 8th of March.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, ladies.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.